there's been so many times I think living in Germany that I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? I feel so alone. Like I've called my mom crying on the phone, like literally saying those words. I don't know why the fuck I'm here. Like at your lowest moments and like you just feel like, oh, you just wish you could just hug a family member in those moments. And yet you're on your own and like have to figure that issue out and rise above it, get through it. Howdy und servus, y'all. My name is Paulina de los Santos, and welcome back to another episode of The Pod Abroad, where I share immigrant stories, cultural differences, and perspectives. Normally, I'm speaking with my friends here in Munich, Germany. I'm an American who has lived here in Germany the last 9 years, but today I am bringing you a solo episode, so super happy about that. And as you saw in the title, watch this before moving abroad in your 20s. I'm very excited for this topic today. Why am I bringing you this episode? I turned 30 last week on June 13th. By the time this goes out, it'll be, I don't know, next week or so. And turning 30 caused for a lot of reflection. I moved to Germany when I was 21 years old. So I've been here almost a decade, 9 years, and I feel like there's a lot to say about that. And if you're curious about moving abroad in your 20s, curious about life here in Germany as an American, then I think this episode is definitely for you. I'm also filming this episode for the version of me at 21 who had no idea what was coming at all. So making sure that episode is for her. Just want to have some reflection today. So thanks for joining along. The first question that I wanted to ask everyone first question that I wanted to ask in general is, should you move abroad? When you're asking yourself that. And I would say, hell yeah. I think that's an oversimplification, but yes, and yes. If it's merely a thought in the back of your mind, a crazy little thought that you think like, should I do it? Do it. Why not? What's the worst that can happen? Honestly, is it like you go home, like you go back to your home country and you know that you tried. I think so cheesy, right? But I think life is better trying to go for the things that you think could be a crazy little dream and just like shooting your shot. And seeing how that turns out. It may not work in your favor, but there's a chance that it could, and that it could be everything that you've dreamed of and more, but you'll never know until you try. What's that cheesy quote again? Like, you miss 100% of the chances that you don't take, and that's very, very true. Obviously, moving abroad, there's a lot of prep that takes, that you need to take into account. A lot of, saving money. Finances is a big part of that prior to moving. But just wanted to say that you are not crazy. I come from a very small town in South Texas of 40,000 people called Weslaco, Texas. And it's not common for people where I'm from to leave our hometown region in South Texas, much less the state, much less the country. So, for me, it's funny because I don't know, I didn't even think twice when I moved at 21. I probably moved here very, very ignorant. I know I moved here ignorant to the world outside of the US, but I had a strong desire to change that. And I think that was kind of my driving factor. And in the end, something I'm very, very happy about. So I would say yes. Do it. If you need a sign, this is your sign to move abroad. Like I said, it's not that simple, but like, can it be? Can you just say, yes, I'm going to do it and make a plan? Yes, you can. And I believe in you. So just wanted to start off the episode with that. Moving into the romanticized version versus reality of living life abroad. I think when I first moved to Germany in 2016, that my friends and family might have thought that I'm on an eternal vacation. Because at the time, of course, I was like posting on Instagram quite often, and coming from Texas, like, I don't know, our vacations aren't as lavish as they appear to be here in Europe, living in Germany, like, and having proximity to France, to Switzerland, Italy, Spain, like with, yeah, 2-hour flight. It very much seemed like I had moved into this dreamy place where my problems are no longer and everything is just like incredible all the time. Obviously, like it's like Instagram versus reality. That is not always it. That to say, like, I will say that you will have magical moments. The fact that I mean, I'm speaking about Europe right now because yeah, that's all I can speak of. Um, the fact that travel is so accessible, suddenly you're able to do things that you maybe, yeah, would have never dreamed of doing while living in the US because it's much more affordable, really, like relative to travel in the US. And because of that, yeah, it nevertheless will feel like you'll have those magical moments. Um, but it also can be, of course, lonely and hard, and very expensive, and your problems don't just magically go away. Um, but like I said, travel is still epic, though. Don't want to take away from that. Yeah, visas suck. The whole visa process is, yeah, I mean, depending on what country you are in the European Union or in the UK, they all have different processes, and the waiting times are super long. Sometimes you're in between visas and don't know when the government's going to get back to you. And it's an eternal kind of struggle of anxiety and not knowing. So that, yeah, just feeling anxious constantly. That's a challenge. And it's something now that I have like a deeper understanding of being an immigrant in Germany, like to what my grandma went through, for example, being an immigrant in the US from Mexico. Suddenly, like you just, yeah, you have a deeper appreciation for, um, yeah, for when things do work in your favor, because you know, like how long it took to get there. But definitely looking back now, I think right now in the US, like, oh man, so much is going on right now with immigration, and it's honestly been breaking my heart and been super, super heavy on my heart. With the ICE raids and people being snatched off the streets and taken into detention centers, even in South Texas, in my hometown region, with no due process. And I think that's absolutely insane. And I think in general that we all need to have a bit more empathy, a lot more empathy, and not lose like the human part of humanity, like just, yeah, caring for one another and looking at one another as humans, and not using the word immigrant in a derogatory sense. So, yeah, that's just aside. It's something that's, yeah, near and dear to my heart of like protecting immigrants, and being able to share their experiences and stories here on my podcast. So I do realize, of course, that I am an immigrant here in Germany by choice, that I fortunately had the opportunity to come here, like not necessarily fleeing my home country. And that's very different, of course, from immigrants who um, flee their country for a better life. Nevertheless, there are still some similarities between us that I can see. And I think immigrants are beautiful, and immigration should be cherished. So that's what I stand for. If that's something that bothers you, then I was going to say, check yourself. Check yourself and check yourself out of my podcast. Moving on. Moving abroad is not running away. Your problems still remain. Wanted to speak on that. Like I said, people have this romanticized idea of your life or one's life when you leave your home country, and might think that everything is just like rainbows and butterflies. Nevertheless, you still have your issues. Like issues don't just magically like get resolved by, yeah, moving your life. In fact, like you bring more issues into your life. New languages, bureaucracy, culture, everything in between. transport, maybe you need to buy a new car, finding a new apartment, making friends, like, there's just so many things, um, all happening at once, and that's the hard part. So you have to give yourself some grace. Everything isn't gonna happen overnight. Things take time. Good things take time, and, yeah, I think just to keep that in mind that, like, none of these things just happen overnight. That, like, building the life that you want to live abroad, takes a lot of effort and, patience. So that's something, definitely worth noting. I wanna go into the topic of loneliness, and say that loneliness is real and making friends is hard. That to say, before I moved to Germany, I had moved, after university in Texas, I moved to San Antonio where I had family, and, I remember making friends as an adult in Texas was also so hard. So imagine that, like, in now, like, looking back, making friends in Texas as an adult, like, not, um yeah, not at university, was very challenging for me, and that's because I look upon my people in Texas as, like, such warm and friendly people versus people in Munich, Germany, and it was still hard then, so if that was hard for me then, like, it's 10 times harder now, and, I mean, there's language differences as well, and because of that, I think a lot of immigrants end up having a lot of immigrant friends. What's the saying? Like birds of a feather flock together. And it's quite true. When I look at a lot of my yeah, friends here in Munich, Germany, they are mostly immigrants as well. Not to say that that's a bad thing. Actually, I think that's a beautiful thing as well. I think it's very natural that we have this, yeah, shared experience, trauma bonds, maybe, and yeah, just kind of understanding of one another. And because of that, friendships bloom. I do have some beautiful German friends as well that I'm very grateful for, but the majority I would say are internationals. Um, and it's been very hard. Very like, I mean, it's been a journey to, like, create the community that I have today, and it's something that I'm so very grateful for. In 2019, when I had finished my master's program, and many people had moved away, I was still left here in Munich, Germany with, like, almost no friends, and I just remember, like, how lonely I felt and how the city felt so incredibly isolated because the city is really what, friends make up it. Is that right English? A city is only, like, a city with the friends that you have around you and that community that you build, so when all of those friends are gone, like, the city just felt, like, very lonely, and I wondered, like, "Should I have moved? Like, why am I still here?" And I had to start over. And that was a challenge, and it took many years, to build the friendships that I have today. Um, but one thing that I will say, like, on making friends is that you need to also, like, make a big effort. I feel like making friends abroad or wherever you're at, I feel like is a bit like dating that, yeah, like, someone has to make the first move. Someone has to continue initiating, and you're really forming a relationship, with one another. And, that also takes time and patience and effort. So when people have, yeah, asked in the past, like, "How do you make friends?" Like, or said, "Making friends in Germany is so, so hard." I wonder, like, what are you doing to change that? Because when I had no friends, honestly, though, like, it was pre-pandemic, and I wasn't doing actually so much to make those friends. I think I went to, like, one, little friend group, from, like, a Facebook group that didn't end up, um, blooming into anything. But I think, like, a lot of significant effort has to be made, and community isn't made from, like, showing up to, like, this little group once every blue moon. It's, like, consistently showing up and finding your people. And then, of course, it's a question of, like, oh, like, when I go to maybe these groups or stuff, like, I don't find my people, but, like, that takes time as well. Then find another interest that you may have, like, if it's a running group or, I don't know, something related to music or other sports or, social groups where you're, like, kinda drinking or not, groups where like you guys don't drink alcohol. Whatever bond that you feel like you could connect to people on, I think that's very, very important. Finding hobbies that you can both share, also very important. Because making friends, like when you're in university or school growing up, a lot of it is by circumstance, right? You see these people every single day. So you don't necessarily have to be sharing the same hobbies because you literally see them every single day. And because of that, you can grow incredibly close. But we don't have that as adults when we're working full time or otherwise. Um, Therefore, you have to have something in common, right? Like some red thread tying you together that makes it easy to keep on meeting with one another. So there's my little aside about like making friends abroad. But on the topic of loneliness being real, I think it's very hard missing milestones back home, like from your family or holidays. I think that's, yeah, sometimes very sad, and that life can sometimes feel selfish. That's how, yeah, I personally feel. Um, I mean, on some days it's great, and on other days you just really miss your family. I live alone with my partner, alone with my partner. We live just alone here in Munich, Germany, with no family here in this city. Um, my mom lives in Spain. My brothers and dad live in Texas. And my partner Tim's family lives scattered throughout Germany and South Africa. So, all of that being said, we don't have the same experience as people who live in the same cities as their siblings or their parents, that they can just like call up and like have Sunday dinners together, or ask if someone can help them move, or I don't know, go to the movies with over the weekend. We don't have any of that. And sometimes, yeah, sometimes that can feel a bit sad. Nevertheless, I think my family knows that if I lived in Texas, maybe I wouldn't be like my happiest version of myself. And like they're always rooting for me and my life over here, which feels very beautiful too. And it makes you cherish the moments with your family that much more, I will say. Because life is about those little moments. And when you don't have them, um, then yeah, like I said, a bit of loneliness. Um, but yes, maybe if I were to be living in San Antonio, Texas, I would be taking those moments for granted though. Maybe like at the beginning, I'd be like, oh, this is great. And then like, I don't know, a year later, you're just like, oh, this is just normal life. But if you're living with your family right now, cherish those moments. And if you're considering moving abroad and wondering like, oh, but I could never ever leave my family, it's a hard thing to do, right? Um, and it is a reality of choosing a life like for yourself, like that you want to live, that you think could be beneficial and bring you growth. There's a cost to that, for sure. Um, there's so many been so many times I think living in Germany that I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? I feel so alone. Like I've called my mom crying on the phone, like literally saying those words. I don't know why the fuck I'm here. Like at your lowest moments, and like you just feel like, oh, you just wish you could just hug a family member in those moments. And yet you're on your own and like have to figure that issue out and rise above it, get through it um, alone. So at the end of the day, like it makes you stronger. That's for sure. You grow a thicker skin, and yeah, I don't know. Nevertheless, you can still maintain your relationships with your family while living abroad, of course. I'd like to think, like for my mom and I, that our relationship has grown even stronger since we've been apart a bit. And now that she lives in Spain, she also understands like what life is like away from where you grew up, and like from where everything um yeah was just the norm. And now there's, yeah, cultural differences and everything new. And I think that's beautiful for her because she's 62 and like experiencing life through a whole new lens, and like excited and getting to meet people from all over the world, which I think is such a eye-opening thing for sure. Um, One last thing that I wanted to say is like tips for surviving lonely seasons. There is a quote that I have seen on memes online that says, If you don't feel good on the inside, get the fuck outside. And I find that so true. Anytime that I've been like deep into my head and like not feeling well up here, I start to wonder like, have I gone outside? Probably not. Like in the deepest trenches of COVID, I was like 3 days inside of like a tiny little studio and I just like wasn't feeling well. And I'm like, yeah, maybe like getting fresh oxygen to the brain is a good thing. So if you're not feeling good on the inside, get the fuck outside. It's very important, like to get those steps in, like get some fresh air and like get out, go try to meet people and like make an effort. And I will say that I think I'm like a really firm believer in like the energy that you put out into the world is what you receive. If you perceive like your city to be like this shitty place, like where everybody's mean and like, yeah, no strangers are nice, like then maybe that's like what you'll receive back. But if you go out into the world and think like, you know what, like there are some great people here and like I'm determined to meet them, then maybe you'll receive that. I will say that like I'm normally like the one thinking like, oh, like Munich people, not nice. And therefore lately, like I probably haven't like met any nice Munich people. Um, but this is advice for myself as well, that like perspective shapes reality. I firmly believe that. And going out into the world with like a positive attitude, like constantly, and just being like, you know what, like I am gonna make friends. Like I will find my people. Then maybe that's just like good energy being sent out that wants to come your way. Now I want to move into a bit about identity and say that identity gets a little messy, that you're not 100%, I think, relating to here or there when you move abroad, especially after it's been a few years. And there's nothing wrong with that. That being abroad like challenges your beliefs, values, sense of home. But that this whole like little identity crisis that we may have while living abroad is something I think pretty normal, and it's not something necessarily to be scared about. I think it's just a bit of growing pains, and that it's something that's probably here to stay for me. I have said before that like I think I will die feeling very uniquely American, and I'm totally fine with that. I think that's just like how it is. No matter how many years that I may be living here in Germany, like I will always have that stamp on my forehead, and I'm okay with that. Um, it's funny, like not feeling super German, not feeling like entirely American. Nevertheless, I think it's something that is beautiful in a sense that like we're always trying to just um, find what makes us us. And at the end of the day, it's a blend, right? About where we come from and where we're at. Um, but in a sense of like living abroad, challenging your beliefs and values, I will say I'm very happy, very, very happy about that. Yeah, let's talk about religion for a little bit. I grew up Catholic my whole life. Yeah, was born and raised Catholic in the state of Texas. And when I went to university, I went to Texas A&M University. It was a very, very socially and politically conservative university, though I had my people. So it didn't bother me like at the time. And I remember I was 18 years old. It was the first time that I wasn't living with my family, with my mom and brothers. And I went to a Catholic church in College Station, Texas. And I think the priest said something like, oh, we know where the homosexuals will go, like straight to the fire gates, like of hell. And I was like, okay, oh wow, like, I have free will. Why am I here? And I remember like quietly standing up and walking out of that church. And I never went back like willingly to a Catholic church. I think like when I'm with my mom, like over the past few years, I would go, but I think at that moment I didn't quite know that I was like leaving the religion entirely. But it was when I first moved to Germany here in Munich, I had to sign some papers when you're applying for your visa. One of the questions here in Germany asks, like, what religion are you? And people had told me that if you check the Catholic box, then you'll be paying a church tax. And I was just like, I am not paying this tax that supports several child molesters. Like, it's been systemic and consistent throughout history, and the Catholic Church has been defending them. So I was just like, okay, absolutely not. Didn't check that box. And like, oof, I remember like when I signed the paper, I feel like that was like the definitive moment that I was like, I hope I'm not gonna erupt into flames. like I've been told, like, I hope I'm not burning in hell. I think I'm not Catholic. And that was a huge moment for me. And yeah, a bit of a scary moment because I was raised like going to CCE, which is Catholic Community Education, once a week, where I was constantly told, if you are not with us, then you're kind of against the world. And if you're not following the Catholic Jesus, then like you're going to be so incredibly lost. And I don't feel that way. But I had that kind of fear in the back of my head of like, oh, you're going to be so lost without religion. And that just quite like wasn't the case for me now. And all that being said is that here in Munich, Germany, in a city like it's very normal for people my age, now 30, to not be religious. And I don't know if it's the same, like if I can say the same from like where I'm from in Texas. I definitely like respect religion if it respects people. I believe in the golden rule, like treat people how you'd want to be treated. But in the end, like I feel very welcome here in a German city, knowing that people aren't as religious and just like respectful of one another. I think that's very nice. I surely believe that being religious doesn't make you a good person, and not being religious doesn't make you a bad person. So that's definitely where I stand. So yeah, all that being said is that living abroad and experiencing different cultures is very refreshing in some sense. This could be a negative for you if you are very religious and like you find yourself in a place maybe that isn't as much, but in the end, like I think you'd also find your people. If I was religious here in Munich, I'm sure that I could find those who are as well. But in general, like societies are very different when I'm comparing Texas to living in Germany. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about career, money, and stability. And start with maybe saying that the only constant is change. So stability, like don't know her when I first moved abroad. Luckily, I do now. But I, yeah, struggled with money when I first came here. When prior to coming to Germany in 2016, I worked full time, I think for like 8 months in between my bachelor's and my master's degree. And I saved so much money. I think I worked 3 jobs. Like I had a full-time job. I was a tutor in the evenings, and I was a dog sitter on the weekends. I was just doing everything I possibly could to save money, because on a student visa in 2016 here in Munich, you needed, I think it was like 11,000 euro, which was about, I think, 12,000 US dollars to apply, which was just like a ridiculous, like insane amount of money for me at 21 years old, trying to finance this life all on my own. But I somehow made it happen. My brother took my little car and he gave me his car and let me sell it because it had higher value. Like just like the love of a family man was so beautiful. And so they supported me, and I came here, and immediately, like I think 6 months after moving here, I got a student job, which was amazing, but very hard to hold a job while studying as well. But I made it happen. And the career journey, I started working at a corporate as a student, and then had several jobs in between, like with them as well. And then I ended up getting a full-time position with them. So it was a bit of luck, I would say. The job market isn't always going to be amazing, maybe where you're looking to move. So that's something to take into consideration, is like how that might look like. And not every country might have your dream job lined up. It could be like the dream destination, but necessarily like not have good economic opportunity. So that's something that definitely should be, yeah, taken into consideration. Um, and the job market right now, I mean, we're talking about in June 2025 is pretty challenging, I think, with the economy and the state of the world. In Munich particularly, I think the opportunities like are also significantly smaller when you're not fluent, like business fluent in the language. So for me, like if I were to be looking for jobs as someone who's only speaking English, then obviously like your opportunities significantly diminish, and that's something to take into consideration too. At the same time, many people value native English speakers, so that's cool. But in general, look at the job market, like see what that looks like, and save up more money than you think before moving abroad, because it's not like sometimes like you might move and not have a plan and like have a job seeking visa, and then it might be very, very challenging to find a job, especially if you don't have experience in the country at all before. Um, that adds to the difficulty of it. I will say that, I mean, networking is the key. Like that applying to jobs blindly, like from abroad, um is not enough alone. Like I think you need to try to find someone, or like find some connection to the city that you're applying to, and speak to people and really try to go for it if you're like really switching companies and yeah, wanting to move to a foreign country. Next up, I want to speak a little bit about what I wish I knew about love and dating abroad. And this one is, yeah, I don't know how much I want to say on this. This one's a funny one. Um, I want to start with saying that I have found that the quotes, men are trash and men ain't shit, yeah, those are internationally applicable. That, oh my gosh, like dating German men here, like was also like, oof, um, uneventful, I would say, and just very, very different also. I think like there was a lot of cultural differences that, for example, when I left Texas, like if you want to meet someone in Texas, like you when I was 18 back in the day, like you just like go out, go to a bar or something, and people where I went to university at A&M like were very confident and would just like go up to you and start talking to you if you were out with your girls and looking good and like looking like receptive and like kind of open to meeting people, then it wasn't that hard. And I remember at the time I was thinking like, oh, that's so pathetic. Like, oh, like they just keep asking like if you want to dance, and like if you say no, then they just go to the next girl. And then I moved to Germany, where here in Munich, like I'd go out as a student and like the German guys would just be like staring and never confident enough to like go up and speak to us, like to my friends and I. And I found that so funny. And then I remember thinking like, damn, I used to think that the Texan boys were like pathetic for doing that. And like, then I was like, wait, no, like they were just confident. Like they just wanted to dance, or like they just like wanted to meet someone. Like what was so wrong with that? So there was a bit of a perspective switch. I remember then I went on Tinder like in 2018 for the first time in my life. And then dated someone for a while. Shout out Frederick. Like I have nothing bad to say about you. Um, but yeah, it was an experience like um dating German men, and like um I will say like maybe advice for my former self is like don't waste your time on losers. There were so many guys I think that like I had dates with, and I was like trying to like giving them the time of day, who like absolutely had no interest in me. Or I don't know, just like yeah, that sucked in general, like couldn't respond to texts or whatever it may be, and I put up with that. And I am a strong believer in the quote like you teach people how to treat you. I don't know if it's just growth and being 30 now and wisdom, or the combination of like living abroad and like also having that added complexity to it. But just it's just so empowering now, like knowing what I know and like being confident. Like feel like being 30 is like just like understanding what you want and like knowing like what you would and would not accept. Like if tomorrow I was single, like God no, like I would not date the guys or the kind of guys that I had briefly dated in the past. And that's on growth. So I will say that. And also like in the world of dating abroad, it's kind of scary getting serious with someone. especially when you don't know how long you'll be there if you're like abroad indefinitely. So I think that was always like also a lingering thought behind, yeah, in the back of my head. It was like thinking like, I don't know, like if I can fully open up my heart to this person. Um, they didn't want me to fully open up my heart to them. But nevertheless, yeah, like that's in the back of your head when you're abroad. It's like, how long is this gonna last? Because like I might move back. I wouldn't let that like stop you from dating in general. Um, I think of course it's something that will always be there in the back of your head. It's like I could be gone, but like enjoy the moment. That would be my advice to someone wanting to move abroad in their 20s is like fuck it and just live in the moment and see where things go. Things don't have to be like completely planned out like when you're just dating someone. Um, and that's okay. So yeah, nevertheless, like don't let it stop you from meeting someone special. So why not continue dating and yeah. A few dates is not like doesn't have to mean that like you're gonna like marry someone and like stay in Europe or wherever you're at forever. So don't let that stop you. Um, Next up, I want to speak about advice to my 21-year-old self. Paulina, who moved to Germany in 2016, who had never stepped a foot, yeah, had never stepped foot a day in this country. My first piece of advice would be take a breath. You'll figure things out. You always do. I think I was like really consumed with anxiety a bit when I was younger and when I first moved here. A lot of which was quite frankly related to finances. Um, and yeah, paying my bills, which I guess in that sense, the anxiety was um, understandable. Nevertheless, like anxiety doesn't help you solve the situation. Like instead of having that added panic and like pain of like not knowing, like just be proactive about it. And like, I mean, that's what I did nevertheless. And like, I figured things out. I got new jobs, always like always in the nick of time. But things always work out. And I think that's something that we all need to keep in mind is that like the sun will rise the next day. Like you're going to somehow make your rent. Like you just got to keep applying for jobs and believe in the power of the universe. This sounds so like foofy and witchy. But just knowing that like things will work out and like I said, kind of having that positive outlook on life. And what did I say? That like perception shapes reality of like just having that energy of knowing that like I will figure this out. I will be able to pay my rent next month, even though I have like nothing in my bank account, because I will get a job because I am constantly applying and I'm qualified and I'm a good little student. I wish I could tell my former self that like it's okay, girl. Like things will fall into place. The second point is that change is the only constant. Friends will come and go, and you'll have to constantly reinvent yourself. Don't be afraid of that. I think that's a huge one. Is that while I've been here, there have been several different chapters of my life where I've just had to like kind of restart all over again. Is it tiring? Yeah, a bit, but like that's just life living abroad. We don't have the comfort of like being in your hometown or being in a town where you've like created community where people have been there the last 10 years. Like I said, I have a lot of international friends and people have come and go, like they come and go and um that's okay. I mean, it hurts, but it won't stop me. It won't stop me from making friends with international people. We have to enjoy the moments that we have and build community while the community is here. But things will always change. And reinventing oneself is something, and yeah, that is a reality. But I feel like that could also apply for like living in your own hometown. But like living abroad is just like living where you're from on steroids because there's always added levels of complexity with languages and bureaucracy and meeting friends with cultural differences and trying to understand that and navigate that. So yeah, change is the only constant and that's okay. And that's life. And I will say that the last maybe 2-3 years of living here in Germany that change has kind of slowed down a bit for me. Not to say that it's not to come, but maybe after I don't know, several years. Like it took me like maybe 6 years here to like really slow down and things to not be as volatile and like changing. And I'm very happy about that now. Nevertheless, I know I'm prepared for change to come in general because that's inevitable. And then lastly, I wrote that it's okay to be different. It is okay to be different when you live abroad and are an immigrant in a country. I think that when I first moved to Germany, I so desperately wanted to assimilate and like fit in because I kind of felt like I stuck out like a sore thumb. I remember wearing red lipstick to class one day at university, and somebody asked me if I was going to a party later, and I didn't understand that. And I was just like, no. And I remember that hurt, that really stung. And then I stopped wearing lipstick altogether to class because many people didn't wear makeup. And I started to do things and like I wasn't wearing as many bright colors because I really wanted to fit in with like the neutrals that everyone was wearing. And I think that was fine. I mean, I was doing that to feel a bit more comfortable where I was. And now I am definitely in my era of like of regaining who I am and who I want to be and saying like fuck fitting in perfectly because I never will fit into this mold, I guess, of what people want me to be or expect of me like as someone here in Germany, and that's okay. Um I think immigrants don't owe anyone like to fit into a perfect mold and to kind of lose your spark. I think that's so important is that like you don't lose the essence of who you are. I have met neighbors in my town, like here in Munich, who are from the South, from Georgia. And shout out to you, Bailey, if you're watching this. And I just get so inspired by her because she recently moved here. And one thing that I can tell between like people who have lived here for like several years and people who are like have just moved, for example, is that like people still have their spark. And like I hope that I still have my spark after all these years, but like hers just shines so bright. And I'm like, oh, that's so good. Like she hasn't been in Germany so long. Like they haven't broke her. Um, no, but like, yeah, I think it's beautiful, like when you can still maintain who you are and know that like it's okay to be different. Next up, I want to talk about what you can gain and the beauty of starting fresh, and start off with deep resilience. Like I've said in this episode, like there are so many highs and lows and challenges that comes with moving to a foreign country. Um, and that sometimes it looks so beautiful from the outside, but like people have no idea what you're actually going through. And like sometimes with time differences and like catching up with your friends back home or family, like is tough. And that you can feel a little isolated. And nevertheless, like that builds a deep resilience and like you get stronger because of it. Um, and there's a lot to learn from that and from just watching the environment around you and learning new things from people. Sometimes, like, I wish that I could go back and feel how I felt my first week living in this country, because it was full of wonder and curiosity. And I think that's so cool. And I quite honestly like love seeing how people react when they first come to Germany for the first time um, or to Europe for the first time. And I think that's very cool because there is that kind of curiosity and excitement of seeing things with fresh eyes, because one does really see that the world is so vast and wide and that we're all very different, and yet somehow a little the same of being human. And I think that's very cool. So building that resilience and learning along the way, I think is something beautiful that comes with moving abroad. Um, I think that you can gain friendships that feel like family, because a lot of us are on the same boat. Like I said, that sometimes I feel like my life here is a bit selfish in a way because I'm just like, la la la, like, what do I do on the weekend for funsies? I don't have responsibility of like supporting my family or like going over to them on the weekends. Um, and because of that, you're just like having funsies time. That's such a funny word. You're having a lot of fun like with the friends that you've made here, and you're also going to your friends for the hard shit and the hard times. And I think that's a beautiful thing, and that living abroad, when you've developed these communities and these friendships, that it truly is like having a home away from home and having family. And like, what is that saying that's like not all family is blood, something like that. So true, so very true. And connecting with people on that level is such a beautiful thing. It's a bit rare, right? To like look at someone like your sister or um, your cool aunt, but nevertheless, I think it's yeah, even though it's rare, it's something out there and something that is beautiful once you find it. And lastly, I want to say that I think I mentioned life here is like life back home, but on steroids sometimes. But you get a stronger sense of self and knowing exactly what you want. And I think that's something that you can gain while living abroad is, yeah, understanding what's good, things that, yeah, that you want from life and things that you just like don't agree with or, um, yeah, just having that perspective between the two and like gaining that sense of self is really cool as well. Obviously, this comes with time as well for people who live in their own home country. Like I said, I think it's just on steroids here that like because everything's different, the simple tasks become harder if there's language barriers like calling the phone service because your internet went out or um I don't know, making doctor's appointments, like all these little things become significantly harder. And you grow from it and it makes you stronger. And you have that sense of self of being like, okay, like this is something that I chose. I chose to do this and we're going to figure it out. And I think that's very cool. So, want to finish up with some final thoughts. So, should you move abroad? I will say it's not, of course, for everybody. But if you feel the pull, try it. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, just try it. I'm here to tell you that you're not crazy for thinking like, maybe I could go live in Spain or maybe I could go whatever, move to this country. I think you're not crazy and that there is a respectful and yeah, good way to immigrate. Accepting the culture, like like listening to people around you, learning the language. I think all these things are something very, very cool. And if you have like this slight thought of doing it, just do it. Like, why not put your ducks in a row, save your money, to prepare for life over here and what's to come. But I would say like, why not? Why not? You don't want to live life with regrets and like, just ask yourself, like, would you want to be older one day and looking back thinking like, man, I should have done that. Why don't you just do it and figure it out along the way? I think that's something very admirable for people moving abroad in their 20s. Definitely. I want to say don't expect ease, expect transformation. That's something for sure. It's gonna, yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's very easy to like see someone's life and see Instagram photos and be like, wow, like they're here, they're in Italy, they're there. Like, oh, like I want to have that too. But that's just like one snapshot of an ever evolving life. So just know that it's not necessarily easy, but it's transformative. And if you're willing and open to transform and like learn those things and be open, then why not? And lastly is saying that you won't come back the same. If you do choose to go back to your home country, that you won't come back the same. But that's the whole point. That is definitely the whole point, is to open up your world and understand this crazy world just a little bit better. So I will leave you all off with that. What can I say about 9 years of living in Germany? I never thought that I'd be here this long. I literally came for a master's program that was supposed to be 2 years. And then when I graduated, I was like, I don't feel like my time here is over. Like it would make me sad to move back. And then that was like 6 years ago. And now it's been 9 years total. And I don't know how it's become this, but I'm just so grateful that it has become this. And I would do it over and over and over again in every like alternate life that I'd live. Like I would move abroad and like take that adventure and grow from it. So thanks a lot for watching this episode. If you liked it, then please give it a like and comment down below if you'd ever move abroad, or if you have moved abroad before, then tell me. I'd love to know. Thanks a lot for listening to this episode, and I will catch you guys next week. Ciao. The Pod Abroad's video, audio, and music is produced and edited by Tim Teherne. Make sure to give us a follow and leave a comment if you like this episode.